September 5 was my mystery movie tonight at Regal. I was uploading the app, I saw them say on the East Coast it's September 5, and I made sure after work to slip in and get to see this now Golden Globe nominated for Best Drama movie, one that was on my list of movies that I needed to see before the end of 2024, and it's one that's marked off my list. Now, am I somebody who's going to buy into the hype and applaud the Golden Globes for nominating this? Or am I going to be one of the people who are questioning why this got nominated, especially over a movie like Sing Sing, which I also haven't seen yet? But we're going to go into that and more here as we talk about this award season contender, September 5. Set in 1972, September 5 takes you on the fast-paced journey of the September 5th, 1972, known as the day of the Israeli Olympic team hostage crisis during the 1972 Munich Olympics. Something that's been told by Spielberg before in his own kind of telling of this movie. This movie really focuses on and really is centered around what the newsroom was like and what ended up being this first kind of major live event that took place like this in terms of a global scale of, whether you want to call it terrorism, whether you want to call it just a global event being able to be so hands-on live. September 5 does an excellent job putting you in that newsroom, putting you in the just lane of adrenaline of all emotions and trying to figure out how to make this live broadcast work. Now, I led into this is, do I think this should be nominated for Best Drama, or am I more on the side it doesn't? And after coming out of this, I'm definitely a huge fan and on the side. I understand and I'm happy that this got nominated for Best Drama at the Golden Globes. There's certain movies out there that people will always enjoy. You have your horror fans that are passionate about horror. Obviously, you have fans that are passionate about superhero movies. Fans that are passionate about sci-fi, romantic comedies, buddy cop comedies, dramas, musicals. For me, I would probably say my niche that will always get me excited and going is like period pieces that is able to tell history through a different lens in some ways. And that's what September 5 was able to do. It was allowing you to really live this experience and get all of the, I feel, important moments that happened, in some ways with this Israeli, hostage crisis that happened in the 1972 Munich Olympics. But it was telling so much more with the period and really like, how did the live broadcasting work? What were the interesting things they did to make sure they stayed on top of the story? The movie is just very engaging through that overall. Is it as true as it is? I'm not too sure. But I found myself amazingly engaged. I felt like this really lived in the time, whether it's the costume design, whether it's the way the cinematography and the movie was shot. The script felt like it was right out of 1972. This was just a movie that I think perfected the feel of a period piece. It gave you the pacing and the high intensity of what a newsroom would feel like in that. Every 2 seconds, it feels like there's a new topic or new question being posed to the producers of this movie, to the staff of this movie. But I guess the producers of the story, to the staff of the story, and it just doesn't stop and really raises some interesting questions, but I think it highlights just the intricacy and kind of the modernization of live news television at that time. This was the first Olympics, like it shows in the beginning, that was broadcasted live to the U.S., just basically live at all. I just found so much of that stuff thrilling, and I love the the historical type element. I love the little crumbs you have throughout, and it just was the type of movie that piques my interest and kept me engaged from beginning to end. The screenplay of this movie works very well. I think the direction of this movie is absolutely superb, directed by Tim Falbon. I think the cinematography really sets you in that period, and that allows for when they use actual videos and actual live footage that happened during this hostage crisis. It feels like it's seamlessly in the movie. You don't be like, man, that feels like it's in a different universe. No, everything about this felt like it was in 1972. It felt like I was watching people doing that. And the script, again, everybody writing-wise felt like it was of that era as well. And I just love the political action, the political drama side, not because of the hostage terror situation, but just the political aspect of trying to get this broadcast to stay live. The commentary, even in some points of the movie where people were a little bit more interested in sports instead of this very live, human and worldwide event. You had, questions be brought up about journalistic integrity in some moments. This is not a story you can hypothetically spoil. History is history. But I found myself engaged throughout and just loved the cast of characters that were breathing in through here. John Magaro was the closest thing we have to a lead, as kind of the head producer that walked into this situation not knowing what was happening. He was a standout for me. His presence was felt all throughout the movie. I mean, he was he was the third wheel in the indie movie that was last season. What was it called? I forget what it was called, but we all know what it was. You then had, I think, another woman who was a part of the Teacher's Lounge last year, Leonie Benish, who plays the German translator, and I think she's able to display so many ranges of emotions and goes so far beyond just a translator, because her character is kind of showing the heart of the idea that, Munich, Germany, 1972 Olympics, that sounds like it's more modern, but when you think about it, it's only 27 years removed from the end of World War II, and this is Germany's really first big chance on a national stage to kind of prove themselves that they're changing them, that they're changing, they can be trusted and they can be welcomed back more into the modern world. And you see that happen as, whether it's a French individual, whether it's other American individuals, even the conflicts, how the Germans feel that they have to spend money on this Olympics. Benish's character is just a center of that. And she does such a good job of that. And I think there's a lot of interesting points historically of you think 1972, that feels so far away from World War II. How can you have comments about, people making comments about World War II, the concentration camps and holding grudges against Germany still? But, I think a good parallel, and not even a good parallel, because obviously World War II is a much bigger story and almost, it's its own huge offense of the world. But if you asked Americans nowadays about September 11th and you said, hey, what if we hosted the Olympics in Iraq, Afghanistan, or Saudi Arabia, Americans might feel pretty upset by that, even though Iraq didn't cause anything with this, but obviously Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia did. And that's still, for a lot of people, there's a lot of people in our world, in America, that get profiled and judged by just the color of their skin or the fact they came from the Middle Eastern part of the world because of September 11th. And that's, like I said, this is 27 years after World War I. September 11th now is 23 years since that event. So that's a 4-year difference. Can you imagine the pressure and the feel of things and the thoughts about a whole country, only 27 years after World War II, after the Holocaust? It makes you realize how important this event must have been, for Germany trying to get back on the global stage, showing they're a respectable country, and the pressure it must have been and the failure that they might have had during this hostage crisis situation. And I just think that, Benish's character from beginning to end really symbolizes that throughout. And it's kind of the quiet heart of this movie. I think Megaro's character is more of a lead if there was a lead, because you're seeing him control everything. But if there's anybody who's kind of the heart, I would say Benicia is the heart of this movie. But everybody else around this, like Ben Chaplin plays Marvin Bader, is amazing. Peter Skarsgård as Rune Aldridge, kind of the head honcho at ABC Sports here, did an amazing job. The integral parts of the story I just felt worked very, very well. It kept me well engaged. I was on the edge of my seat. I was definitely loving seeing how they were getting this to work, the innovations that they were able to keep coverage in Olympic Village, working against the government, figuring out, hey, we're broadcasting this live. You know who could watch this live? The terrorists doing the hostage situation. Everything about September 5 is exactly in my wheelhouse, is the type of movie I love. It's a brisk hour and a half. It's not trying to overdo this. And when I compare this to a similar movie that was kind of what felt like a live feel of a of a studio room having to edit a live program and get ready for a live program like Saturday Night, this movie just makes me like realize Saturday Night, I'm happy I gave it a gold. It isn't that much better. September 5th is able to give you all the stuff you like to see when it comes to production side of things, tell a much more engaging story, and keep you on the edge of your seat throughout, where that movie and Saturday Night failed. But yeah, September 5 is one of my favorite movies of the year. I absolutely loved it. This is the type of movie I love to see. It's my guilty pleasure movie. Again, I know, for some people, this might have different political conflicts. This movie was made and produced and put together before the conflict of Israel and Palestine and Gaza just this past year. But I do think it highlights the failure of the world at large, that we're having the situation of war in Palestine and Gaza right now in 2024, 52 years after the Munich Olympics, which had Palestine and Israel conflict being seen at the world scene. And the fact that this is a conflict that keeps on going like this, and the world hasn't stepped up to try and stop this, not by having a big war, but by making these two nations, sit down and forcing them to respect each other, just highlights, I think, the major fail all modern nations has had in just the global structure of things. And as much as we, Israel, Palestine, everybody's going to have their own person who they blame, who they support, or who there's not. The truth is there are thousands upon thousands and thousands of families that have been affected by this negatively. And we failed as a world to make sure this conflict didn't keep going like this. And that's one of my takeaways from the movie is this was 52 years ago, and this conflict was center stage and obvious. And 52 years later, this conflict feels even more center stage in this political spotlight. And it's just one of those things of no matter what side you want to be on, the truth of the matter is way too many innocent lives on any side have been lost. And it's a crime that we haven't actually put regulations down and force this out and make the innocent people on all sides not have to be the victims that they've been now for over half a century. As far as my rating for September 5, it's getting a diamond. This is one of my favorite movies of the year. I love this type of movie. I think if you're like me, if you like your Argos, if you like the Newsroom back on HBO, I think September 5 is a movie that you should check out in theaters and you should check out when you get a chance, because it really, really was a good movie in my and I really did love it. I'm interested to see what its award contention is, but again, it's my type of movie. It fits my guilty pleasure, and I can understand when people don't see this as a front runner because it's not making a big statement. but everybody has the things they like. Everybody has the things that they might not like as much. And for me, September 5 was something that I really, really did like. And that's why it's getting a very high diamond for me. Have you seen September 5? Give me your thoughts in the comments down below. And I look forward to seeing anybody else's reaction and just seeing more about the conversation just with this movie with anybody who wants to have one. But yeah, it'll be in my awards talk, which you'll see here on the channel starting next Monday, where every Monday we're going to be breaking down a category of the Academy Awards as we move towards the Academy Award nominations and Academy Award season in the beginning of 2025. But until then, I hope to see you in the comments of another video of mine, and like and subscribe, and I will see you whenever I get a chance to see you later.